So let's discuss about aquatic ecosystem. Here, the aquatic ecosystem consists of water as the main habitat, and these ecosystems are called aquatic ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem can be classified into three major subgroups based on the concentration of the salt. Okay, on the basis of concentration of salt in the water, this ecosystem can be classified into three major groups. These are freshwater ecosystem, the marine water ecosystem, and the brackish water ecosystem. Here, in the freshwater ecosystem consists of the lowest of salt concentration. It consists of only 5 ppt, that is 5 parts per thousand of salt in it, and examples for this include lakes, ponds, pools, spring, stream, and rivers. The second classification is marine ecosystem. Here the concentration of salt in the water is very high, as high as more than 35 ppt, that is parts per thousand. Here ppt is 35 parts of salt, okay, 35 parts of salt in 1000 parts of water. For example, 35 gram of salt is dissolved in 1000 gram of water. So this is the concept of ppt. The third classification is brackish water ecosystem. Here, under brackish water ecosystem, this is the intermediate state between the fresh and marine ecosystem. Here the salt concentration is ranging from 5 to 35 ppt. Okay, and the major examples include estuaries, salt marshes, mangrove swamps, and these are the important classifications. And next, let's look at aquatic organisms in the aquatic ecosystem. So these aquatic organisms can be classified based on their zone of occurrence, okay, and their ability to cross these zones. Here the zone of occurrence means the water body has different zones, okay. If this is the water body, there are different zones like photic zone, okay. A photic zone is the region where till the sunlight is penetrating, and the aphotic zone is the zone which is devoid of sunlight, and the benthic zone. So certain organisms occur in different zones, and some of the organisms has the ability to cross these zones. For example, here Nekton are the organisms which have the ability to swim on their own. So these organisms has the ability to cross between different zones of the ecosystem, whereas the planktons do not have the capacity to swim on their own. Okay, they are restricted to certain zone of the aquatic ecosystem. This is the concept of this. So these aquatic organisms can be classified into 5 important groups. These include Neuston, Periphyton, Plankton, Nekton, and Benthos. Okay, let's look at this one by one. The first is Neuston. Okay, these organisms are unattached organisms, and they live majorly at the air and water interface. Okay, that is above the surface of the water, that is air and water interface. Okay, these organisms spend most of their life on the top of the air water interface. For example, major example is water strides. So this is the water stride. It lives between air and water interface. Another example is the flying fish. Okay, the second important group is Periphyton. Okay, this includes some of the algae and similar groups. Here the Periphyton, these organisms remain attached to stems and leaves of rooted plants or other substances like stones, boulders of the oceans. Okay, they do not have the capacity to move on their own, but they attach to certain substances. For example, plants, okay, the stem and leaves of the plants, or certain substances. Okay, the algae is the major example for this. And the third important group is the plankton. Please do not confuse with this. The plankton includes both phytoplankton, okay, that is the plant based organisms, and the zooplanktons, that is the animal based organisms. Under phytoplanktons, the algae is the major phytoplankton, and the zooplanktons, protozoans, crustaceans. These are the crustaceans, okay, and certain protozoans. Okay, these are the zooplanktons. So the important characteristics of the planktons include that they do not have the locomotory power. That means they do not have their ability to move on their own. Okay, they have to depend on the water streams. Okay, the direction of the water stream. They move wherever the water moves. Okay, that is the basic concept here. And the fourth group is Nekton. Here Nekton, these are the aquatic organisms. They have the ability to move on their own. Okay, this includes all the this includes smallest organisms include the swimming insects to the largest, that is the whale. Okay, organisms which has the ability to move. These are all the nectons. The fifth group is called benthons. Okay, these benthons, they live at the bottom of the ocean. Okay, water body. They live at the bottom of the water body. Certain examples include the seagrass. Okay, seagrass. This is grown at the bottom of the ocean. So this is the benthon. These are all the five important groups. And next, let's look at the factors, limiting factors that affect the productivity of the aquatic life. This includes sunlight, temperature, transparency, and dissolved oxygen. These are all the important four factors which limits the productivity of the aquatic life. Okay, the sunlight is the major source for the phytoplanktons to grow. Okay, these phytoplanktons utilize the sunlight to produce their own food, and based on the and these phytoplanktons are consumed by zooplanktons and some of the crustaceans. Okay, and then those are consumed by small fishes, and then the big fishes. Here the food chains goes. So these phytoplanktons are the basic of the trophic level here, like the plants, green plants, the terrestrial ecosystem. So this is the basic. So this is entirely dependent on sunlight. So sunlight is the important factor. Okay, and the region, the region can be divided into different zones. That is photic zone, where the sunlight penetrates, okay, to the extent where sunlight penetration is there, and the aphotic zone, here the deep water zone, where sunlight do not penetrate. Okay, and these are called in the photic zone. Photic zone is the upper layer of aquatic ecosystem, up to which the light penetrates and within which the photosynthetic activity is taking place, as I discussed previously. Okay, and this photic zone depends on the transparency of the water. Okay, if there is more turbidity, more silt, more clay in the water, the photic zone is restricted to only small portion of the water body. Okay, and the second important thing is the aphotic zone, that is where the sunlight do not penetrate, and lower layers of the aquatic ecosystem where light penetration and plant growth are restricted. These areas are called aphotic zone. Okay, and in this area the photosynthesis is not taking place because of the absence of sunlight. Here only the respiration is taking place, because these deep water zone organisms only utilize the oxygen okay, for the respiration. Here no photosynthesis is happening, but in photic zone both photosynthesis and respiration is taking place. Please remember, this is important. Okay, and this zone is also called as zone of profound. So the next important factor is the dissolved oxygen. Here all the organisms need oxygen. Also the aquatic organisms also need oxygen. So oxygen is available in the form of oxygen dissolved in water. Okay, and the source of oxygen include the photosynthesis by the phytoplanktons and the green plants in the water, and the air and water interface, okay, through which water will be dissolved in the water. So sorry, oxygen will be dissolved in water. So the concentration of oxygen in the fresh water is only 10 ppm. This is 150 times lower than that of the atmosphere. Okay, and another important factor is that the dissolved oxygen is also influenced by the temperature. Okay, if there is more warm water, there is more temperature is more in the water, then the water has the less ability to dissolve the oxygen. So this is the reason why the thermal power plants and the nuclear power plants, which releases hot water into the ocean, okay, is causing environmental degradation, because hot water instantly increases the temperature of the water body. Thereby it restricts the dissolved oxygen presence in the water. Thereby it affects the living beings in the water. So dissolved oxygen is an important component. Okay, here the eutrophication I will discuss in the next video. Eutrophication is the another important factor connected to this. this eutrophication is resulting due to the reduction in the dissolved oxygen. I will discuss this in later. And the third important thing is transparency. Here, if there is more transparency, then the photic zone will be more in the aquatic ecosystem. Okay, and if there is less transparency due to various factors like suspended particulate matter, clay, silt, okay, the turbidity will be increased, and this will reduce the photosynthetic area, that is photic zone of the aquatic ecosystem, thereby directly impacting the living organisms in the water body. So this is the important thing. The fourth is the temperature. Okay, the water has the higher specific heat than the air. That means the more energy is required to change the water temperature. Okay, if you apply a little bit of heat energy into the air, then you can change the air temperature. But water is not that case. In the similar case, water needs more energy to change its form. Okay, water is highly stable. So for this, the various water organisms, that are organisms present in the aquatic ecosystem, are acclimatized to the stable water temperature. So if there is a short fluctuation in the water temperature, and that will be fatal to the aquatic organisms. This is the important factor for the aquatic organisms to survive. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. For the previous videos, please click here. It will be redirected to that. Please share these videos.